Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to really focus in, stack up the key insights, and pull out the essential knowledge you need. Today, our mission is very specific. It's designed as a focused revision if you're deep into your RO5 financial protection studies. So, look, if you've been working through that RO5 study material, maybe done your training with Wiser Academy, this deep dive is really about helping you pull together all those vital learning points. Think of it as a final revision before your exam. We'd really suggest having a pen and paper ready. Honestly, writing down the key points as you hear them, it really helps lock them in. Our focus today is strictly on Chapter 2 of the RO5 Financial Protection Text. We're zeroing in on those key learning objectives, the stuff you need to know for that professional insurance exam.
That's right. And it's crucial, especially for multiple choice exam. It's not just about, knowing the definitions. It's about really getting the why. Understanding the practical side of these protections helps you pick the right answer, even when the questions are tricky. Chapter 2 really sets that foundation.
Okay, let's unpack it then. Chapter 2 starts by, mapping out the main areas where people and businesses actually need financial protection. It's about thinking ahead for when things don't go to plan.
Exactly. Section 2A in the text gives a pretty neat overview of the main types. We're talking personal financial cover mostly. So you've got life assurance that's mainly about providing a lump sum if someone dies. Then income protection insurance, IP. That gives you a regular income if you can't work because of an accident or illness. Critical illness cover CIC, that's different again. It pays a lump sum if you're diagnosed with a specific serious illness listed in the policy. There's also accident, sickness, and unemployment insurance ASU. That gives benefits for, accident, sickness, or redundancy. And for health stuff, private medical insurance, PMI, covers private treatment costs, plus health cash plans for smaller payouts for things like dental treatment or hospital stays. Oh, and importantly, menu plans. That's just the idea that you can bundle different covers into one single contract, kind of mix and match.
Right, that's quite a list. But let's get to the why. Why are these things really essential for individuals? It's not just theory, is it? It's about real risks.
Absolutely not just theory. Section 2B really brings this home. Think about critical illness. You mentioned that Cancer Research UK statistic 1 in 2 people born after 1960 getting cancer. It's quite stark. But the key point for financial planning, which the text highlights, is survival rates are improving. So people live after a diagnosis.
Okay. So it's not just the immediate shock, it's the aftermath.
Precisely. Surviving often means a long recovery. Maybe you can't go back to the same job, or you have ongoing costs the NHS doesn't cover, lifestyle changes, it drains your savings.
Yeah, I can see that. It shifts from crisis to, long-term management.
Exactly. And think about losing your income. The text points out illness is actually the most common reason for that.
Right.
How quickly does a family's stability crumble if the main earner's income just stops? Especially with a mortgage or kids.
Much faster than people probably imagine. Without that inward protection safety net, even a few months off work could be disastrous. You could risk losing your home. And protecting dependents is huge, isn't it? Kids, obviously, and their needs might go on longer if they have a disability, but also spouses, partners, maybe even elderly parents if they rely on you financially.
Yes, all those scenarios. And the text also mentions things like power of attorney. What happens if someone can't manage their affairs anymore? There are costs involved there, too, if it's not set up beforehand.
And it's not just personal, is it? What about businesses?
Good point. Business protection is vital, especially for smaller or newer businesses. Often the owner's skill is the business. Their personal wealth and the business's success are totally linked. They usually don't have big reserves if a key person gets seriously ill or dies. So the risk is concentrated.
Okay, so that brings us to the practical side. How does all this risk translate into what insurance someone actually needs based on their current situation, their assets, their debts?
That really is the core question, isn't it? It connects insurance needs directly to someone's existing financial picture, what they own, what they owe. And that's where Know Your Customer KYC comes in. Sections 2C and 2D talk about this. You have to do a thorough fact find. Because existing resources matter. Things like pensions, any state benefits they might get, how much mortgage is left, savings in the bank, all that can reduce the need for more cover. The text gives a clear example. Someone with no debts and no dependents probably doesn't need life cover. But someone with big debts, not many assets, and people relying on them, for them, life cover should be a top priority. It's about seeing the whole picture.
That makes sense. And it leads nicely into our first practice question. This is the kind of thinking you'll need for the exam. Ready? Practice. Multiple choice. Question 1. Which of the following scenarios best illustrates a high priority for life assurance? A. An individual with significant capital and no financial dependence. B, a business owner with substantial wealth tied solely to their personal assets, no business liabilities. C, an individual with modest assets, significant liabilities, and financial dependence. D, a person with all their debts fully repaid and an extensive emergency savings fund.
Okay, the answer here is C, an individual with modest assets, significant liabilities, and financial dependence. Why? Because that's the classic situation where there's a clear financial gap. If that person died, the life assurance would be crucial to pay off debts and support the family. It fits the core purpose. Options A, B, and D. They all describe people who are generally financially secure or don't have others relying on them in the same way. So the need for life cover is much lower. It's about spotting that vulnerability.
Got it. So we've talked about identifying needs and how private insurance fits in, but it's not always just about private insurance, is it? Are there other layers of protection?
That's a really important point. People often just think about buying policies. But Section 2E in the text mentions state benefits. Now, Chapter 3 goes into much more detail, but for Chapter 2, the main thing to grasp is the limitation of state benefits. The text actually says many people think that state benefits will be far greater and last far longer than is actually the case. That highlights a real need for education.
So people overestimate what the state will provide.
Often, yes. State benefits might not be enough to maintain the lifestyle someone's used to, and getting them can be complicated. Eligibility rules can be strict. So while they form a base layer, private insurance is frequently needed to top it up or cover things the state doesn't. It's about not insuring the same need twice, but making sure the whole need is covered.
Right. Understanding what the state does cover helps you figure out what private cover you actually need.
Smart. Okay, let's test that understanding with another question. Practice multiple choice question 2. Which of the following benefits is not typically a primary responsibility of the National Health Service, NHS, in the UK? A, emergency hospital care. B, prescription drugs for individuals over age 60. C, personal or domiciliary long-term care. D, medical and health care provided by GPs.
Okay, the answer is C, personal or domiciliary long-term care. Your study text is quite clear on this. The NHS is not generally responsible for other forms of care, such as personal or domiciliary care. So while the NHS covers GP visits, hospital treatment, prescriptions for older people, the medical side, things like help with washing, dressing, day-to-day living support at home, that usually falls outside the NHS.
Oh, okay, so that often comes down to local authorities or paying for it privately.
Exactly. And understanding that difference is key for proper financial planning, especially around long-term care needs. The other options, A, B, and D, are definitely core NHS responsibilities. Okay, good clarification. Now let's zoom in on something specific, but really important where protection planning is vital. Inheritance tax. IHT.
Yes, IHT. Section 2B4 covers this. It might seem like just a tax issue, but it's a protection need because of the liquidity problem it creates. The key phrase is, the IHT bill usually has to be paid before the proceeds of the estate can be distributed.
Right, so the executors need the cash up front.
Precisely. Imagine an estate is mostly tied up in a house. How do the executors pay the tax bill without selling the house? Maybe quickly and below market value. Having a life policy written in trust to pay the potential IHT bill can solve that problem. Let's use the example calculation from the text. It's straightforward but good practice. Bob dies. His estate is just cash, £500,000, left to his son James. No lifetime gifts were made. Assume the standard nil rate band is £325,000, and the tax rate is 40% on anything above that.
Okay, got it. £500K estate, $325K tax-free band, 40% tax. Time for a last practice question then. Get ready to calculate. Practice multiple choice question 3. Based on that scenario, Bob's £500,000 cash estate, no gifts, £325,000 nil rate band, 40% tax rate. What is the inheritance tax payable? A, £50,000. B, £70,000. C, £87,500. D, £100,000.
And the correct answer is B, £70,000. Let's break it down quickly. First, find the taxable amount. That's the total estate minus the tax-free nil rate band. So £500,000 minus £325,000 gives you £175,000. That's the bit subject to tax. Then you apply the 40% tax rate to that £175,000. So £175,000 in 0.40. That equals £70,000.
Simple when you break it down.
Exactly. It's a direct calculation from the text, and knowing how to do that is definitely useful for the exam.
Okay, so that wraps up our deep dive into Chapter 2 of RO5 Financial Protection. We've looked at the different types of cover, why assessing assets and liabilities is so important, the role of state benefits versus private insurance, and even got into specifics like IHT planning. We really hope this focused revision helps you cement those key learning points for your exam. And seriously, reviewing those notes you took will likely pay off.
Definitely. And remember, beyond the exam, understanding financial protection is fundamentally about building resilience against life's curveballs. It's about looking ahead. The biggest protection gap sometimes isn't about money. It's about awareness, about actually thinking through the what-ifs. So maybe a final thought to take away. Applying these principles, what potential blind spots might you uncover in your own financial planning?